Hello everyone, I'm Dr. M. Nirmala, Assistant Professor of Physics, Sri GVG Visalakshi College for Women, Udumalpe, Tamil Nadu. Today, I'm going to tell you about how the porous plug experiment was performed by the two famous scientists, Joule and Kelvin. So before going into the topic, let's see how the Joule's law was obtained by the experiment intermolecular attraction. Just a minute. So Joule performed an experiment to study the intermolecular attraction between the molecules of a gas. So he designed an apparatus to measure the change in entropy of a gas when its pressure and volume are changed. See, this is the diagram of the Joule's experiment. A and B are the two flasks fitted with the stopcock S. And the flask A was filled with the gas at high pressure and B was perfectly empty, that is vapor. The bulbs were surrounded by a water bath and its temperature was noted with a sensitive thermometer T. The stopcock was open and the gas rushed from A to B. If work was done during the expansion, cooling was expected. But in this experiment, no cooling was observed. So this was puzzling as the work had been done by the gas in overcoming the forces of intermolecular attractions. So the scientist Joule was able to explain the drawback on his experiment by assuming that the gas has expanded into vacuum and so no cooling was observed. So in this experiment, only the pressure and volume of the gas changed and as the bath did not show any change in temperature. So it is evident that the temperature of the gas remains constant. So according to the Joule, scientist Joule, this experiment also shows that the internal energy of a gas is a function of temperature only, irrespective of the change in pressure and volume. So thus, so long as the temperature of the gas remains constant, its internal energy remains unchanged. This experimental results is often referred to as the porous plug Joule's law and may be stated that the internal energy U of a gas depends only on its temperature and it is quite independent of its volume and pressure P. So mathematically, it can be expressed as U is equal to function of temperature. That is, internal energy is the only function of the temperature. So it should be noted that the Joule's law Joule's law is obeyed strictly by a perfect gas only. So the porous plug experiment designed by Joule and Kelvin, however, showed cooling due to the work done by a gas in overcoming the intermolecular attraction when it is passed from the high pressure to low pressure side. So this is the experimental setup of porous plug experiment. So if a gas is initially at a high pressure is allowed to suffer throttle expansion through the porous plug of a silk wool or cotton wool having a number of fine pores to a region of constant lower pressure adiabatically, a change of temperature of gas, either cooling or heating is observed. This effect is called as the Thomson or Joule-Thomson or Joule-Kelvin effect. Let's see the experimental setup of porous plug experiment. See, the apparatus consists of a porous plug having two brass discs D and D prime. The space between D and D prime is packed with cotton wool or silk fibers. The porous plug is fitted in a cylindrical box wood W, which is surrounded by a vessel containing cotton wool. This is done to avoid loss or gain of a heat from the surroundings. And here they'll see the two thermometers, that is T1 and T2, are the two sensitive platinum resistance thermometers, and they are used to measure the temperature of the incoming and outgoing gases. So the gas is compressed to a high pressure with the help of a piston P, and it is passed through a spiral tube immersed in water bath, maintained at a constant temperature. If there is any heating of the gas during compression, this heat is absorbed by the circulating water in the water bath. So let's see how the experimental was done by the following procedure. So by means of a compression pump P, the experimental gas is passed slowly and uniformly through the porous plug, keeping the high pressure constant, read by pressure gauge. During its passage through the porous plug, the gas is throttled. That is, the separation between the molecules increases. On passing through the porous plug, the volume of the gas increases against the atmospheric pressure, as there is no loss or gain of heat during the whole process. So the expansion of the gas takes place adiabatically. So the initial and final temperatures are noted by the thermometers T1 and T2. So what are the results obtained by the scientists are, at sufficiently low temperatures, all gases show a cooling effect. At ordinary temperatures, all gases except hydrogen and helium show cooling effect, but hydrogen and helium show heating instead of cooling at room temperature. So the fall in temperature is directly proportional to the difference in pressure on the two sides of the porous plug. So the fall in temperature for a given difference of pressure decreases with the rise in the initial temperature of the gas. It was found that the cooling effect decreased with the increase of initial temperature and becomes zero at a certain temperature. And at a temperature higher than this temperature, instead of cooling, heating was observed. So this particular temperature at which Joule-Thomson effect changes sign is called the temperature of inversion. So this experiment, this porous plug experiment, helps in understanding the behavior of real gases and important in refrigeration and liquefaction process. So at the summary, the porous plug experiment demonstrates the Joule-Thomson effect, showing the temperature change of a gas when it expands adiabatically through a porous plug from high pressure to low pressure side with no heat exchange or external work done. Dear learners, I hope you understood well about the porous plug experiment and the results drawn from the experiment. Let's meet in another video with a new topic. Thank you.